Kamen Rider Ryuki is one of the most important and popular series in the Heisei era of the Kamen Rider franchise, breaking new ground with its dramatic Rider War that challenged what Kamen Rider could and should be. It's also one of the most widely showcased and recognizable Rider series globally, even before Shout Factory licensed it for streaming, as it not only received an American adaptation, but was also broadcast in many Middle Eastern countries, and specifically received an Arabic dub on Spacetoon, which blew my mind when I first saw it in person. The common story told about Ryuki's conception is that Toei executives were contemplating cutting Rider's newfound revival of Kuga Nagito short, but then, as tragic world events relating to 2001 occurred, TV Asahi, Kamen Rider's main TV network, sent a memo to the Toei guys telling them to keep the show going in order to teach the kids about true justice in the face of the recent tragedy. While these events would lay the foundation for Ryuki's thematic backbone, its aesthetics would be inspired by various concepts that are either scrapped for Agito or made for a new tokusatsu series, specifically a series about knights. This led to Ryuki having over 10 riders, none of which use a bug motif with designs vastly different from past entries. I won't be talking about every Kamen Rider in Ryuki, but I will touch upon the ones that get the most screen time in the show, and I'll throw in Scissors there because he's apparently a meme in Japan. Our main protagonist for the show is Shinji Kido, the titular Kamen Rider Ryuki. He's an optimistic but clumsy young man who's trying his best to make everyone happy, whether it be not fighting for a selfish sake in the Rider War, or trying to help his co-workers get the latest scoop at the Ore Journal. I've seen fans criticize the Ore Journal subplots in the show for being pointless to the overall story, but I disagree, as the job helps ground Shinji in daily human activities instead of pure Rider War shenanigans. It makes him feel more like a common man with a 9-to-5 job that happens to fumble into a dramatic war between desperate individuals. While Shinji's optimism is consistently tested throughout the series, at times even breaking down from all the stress of the war and trying to understand the competitors' unique perspectives for fighting, he still sticks to his gut time after time and trusts the justice he believes in. Shinji's arc shows that despite whatever bullshit the world throws at you, it's okay to want things to get better, and the truly heroic among us won't back down to their last breath, even if there's no grand reward for it. The character is also very charming to watch on screen thanks to Takamasa Suga's heartfelt face performance and Seiji Takaiwa's earnestly goofy suit acting as Ryuki. While Ryuki might be the titular writer of the series, the first one we see in the series is Ren, aka Kamen Rider Knight. He's the originator of the too cool for school edgy secondary writer trope a lot of modern series like using, participating in the Rider War to save his fiancée and consistently challenging our protagonist to give in to the Rider War and just fight him to the death. While his dynamics of characters don't often change throughout the show, I still found Ren's interactions with others entertaining, since his aggressive nature plays off well against the other Rider War participants who have their own distinct philosophies and characteristics. If Shinji represents the ideal and optimistic everyman protagonist, then Knight serves as a foil to that. He's an everyman, but a different flavor of everyman, in the way cynics think a common man would act in a death game situation. Masashi Sudo, aka Kamen Rider Scissors, is the first truly evil Kamen Rider in the franchise, and while he dies fairly quickly into the show, he makes an impression, not just for his morbid death, but showing that anybody in this war can be a writer even if they're morally corrupt. Shunji Kataoka, aka Kamen Rider Zolda, is a magnificent superstar lawyer who manages to argue for his client's innocence every time, no matter if they're guilty or not, to prove that he's the best at his craft. He fights in the Rider War to gain immortality to do whatever he wants for as long as he wants, but as the series goes on, he starts to come to terms with his mortality as he becomes more friendly with Shinji. He still has his moments of entertaining douchebaggery though, and has a totally not homosexual relationship with his butler Goro. Honestly, probably one of the best characters to show the shades of grey of the Rider War. Takeshi Asakura, aka Kamen Rider Oja, is probably one of the most out-and-out villainous characters in this show, as there's little to no nuance with him. He's just a violent bastard who scores the most kills in the Rider War, but he's also one of those villains with tons of nefarious charisma that he's a sadistic joy to watch on screen. Definitely one of my favorite Kamen Rider villains just for the mannerisms alone. Overall, Kamen Rider Ryuki is a show of so much to it, like breaking the Kamen Rider mold so hard in terms of aesthetics and plotting that modern series are still taking influence from it 2 decades later. Coupled with a massively entertaining cast of characters that conflict with each other with their own varying and fascinating perspectives on the world, and you got one of the most important yet fun series in the franchise. It's quickly becoming one of my favorite Kamen Rider shows, and I'll definitely try to talk more about it outside of this video because there's so much more greatness to the show than what I discussed today, like the other Kamen Riders or the multiple endings, but either way, I highly recommend giving this show a try.